What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL Top 10. This time, my top 10 teams in the NFL after Week 16. That means we're only 1 week away from the wild card NFL 2020 playoffs. I'm excited for the playoffs. I think we all know the matchups that are going to take place. Just a few things need to be wrapped up in the regular season in week number 17. We'll see who gets those buys because I think they are really crucial to my decision making on this list. And I did take a slightly different turn on the way that I did formulate my top 10. I more based it off of the way that I see these teams going into the playoffs and how I see them as true Super Bowl contenders, more so than how they are playing at this moment. So this is a little bit more of a projection now that we're in week 16 instead of week 4 or week 3. So that's the way I'm looking at it from now on in the NFL. Can you actually win the Super Bowl? Can I see you lifting that trophy combined with your play at the moment? Before I do dive into my top 10 for week 16, make sure that you do Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. What's your top 10? Do you like my top 10? Do you hate my top 10? Let me know in the comment section below. Give me your list, 10 to number 1. I'm very interested to see how everybody has these certain teams and contenders in both the AFC and the NFC. And also tell me if you think the Super Bowl champion will come from the AFC or come from the NFC conference. Let's kick off with my number 10 team, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota supremely disappointed me in their performance versus the Green Bay Packers in week 16. I was really disappointed because I've been saying for numerous weeks now, I thought they were a more talented team than Green Bay. And given that the game on Monday night was in Minnesota, I thought they would find a way to come out the victor. I thought they would find a way to come out the winner. I don't know what it is with Minnesota. They have a little bit of cowboy syndrome where they don't perform to the level of talent that they have on their team. But unlike the Cowboys, I don't believe that it's all about their coaching because I actually like Zimmer quite a bit. I feel like on the offensive side of the ball, it's been pretty good from a coaching scheme perspective. And I would say Kirk Cousins has had one of his best seasons of his career. But again, on Monday night, Kirk Cousins does not show up. Kirk Cousins does not perform. And when I see that versus a big opponent that's going to be in the playoffs, a divisional rival that you really need to win this game if you want to win the NFC North, I just don't think I believe in the Vikings in a big game setting. I think this game let me know that the Vikings are more towards the pretenders than the contenders. And that's kind of sad because, like I said, I think the Vikings are supremely talented. I like a lot of their players. I'm even rooting for Kirk Cousins to overcome his demons, so to speak, and defeat his haters. But I just don't think that the Vikings are truly built to play in prime time, big time games. They just don't seem to come up with the plays. The defense played really well versus Green Bay, but the offense, without Dalvin Cook, they lacked a lot of explosive ability. I didn't love the play calling. I didn't love that they didn't attack the secondary of the Packers, given their two dynamic receivers. Adam Thielen still looks a little shaky to me. So the Vikings, I think if they get Dalvin Cook back, maybe they can surprise one team in the playoffs. But I don't see them having sustained success because they're a little inconsistent and they just don't seem to come up big when they are the team that is the favorite, or I don't even see them as a team as an underdog that could overcome the odds. So to me, I have the Vikings at number 10, disappointingly. At number 9, I have the Houston Texans. The Texans, this week, they got the victory. They did their job. But overall, I was looking for a little bit of style points. And to me, the Texans didn't offer any style points. To me, at this point in the year, it's not just about the wins, but it's how you look going into the playoffs. We all know that the Texans are going to be a playoff team, but are they going to be able to go into New England and win? Are they going to be able to go into Baltimore and win? Or go into Kansas City and win? And to me, it just doesn't look like the Texans are fully built to do that. Now, the Texans did beat two of those teams earlier this season. I just don't believe in a playoff setting they would be able to do that twice in one season. Deshaun Watson is pretty great, but he didn't play well versus the Bucs. Will Fuller, to have a player that's that banged up all the time and that inconsistent when it comes to going on the football field and actually performing and playing, and he is the biggest piece of your offense in terms of whether it's really good or just average. Will Fuller, when he's on the field, the Texans are dynamic. The Texans are a handful on offense. Without Will Fuller, they are just a completely average team. And to me, when a guy is that banged up and never reliable, it's really hard to rely on a team and actually pick them to do things in the playoffs. Second thing is, I thought Deshaun Watson had arguably his worst game of the season versus Tampa Bay. He was very inaccurate. He was not setting his feet properly. He just didn't seem to get his mojo going. DeAndre Hopkins was shut down by the worst secondary in football, and their defense is just very, very, very average. They are getting J.J. Watt back, which is huge, but I don't see the Texans fully as a contender. I think they are a team that could push one of these contenders to a tight football game because they are capable. But with Bill O'Brien at coach, with the inconsistencies that we see week to week, I can't count on the Texans stringing together 3 or 4 big victories in the playoffs. At number 8, I have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, to me, are exactly like the Texans. They are the NFC version of the Houston Texans. They have a very good quarterback that's capable of winning any game by himself. They have a coaching staff that is very conservative. And I do believe that they have a defense, both of them, that can give up big plays, but also can take the football away. Now, the Seattle Seahawks, the reason why they're a little bit above the Texans is because I just believe in their experience a little bit more. They've been there. They've done that. Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, they've performed before. They brought back Marshawn Lynch to be their running back for the playoff run. I just don't see the Seahawks defense being capable enough to bring this team to the Super Bowl. I think there's too many well-rounded NFC teams, even though I don't think there's one truly elite team in the NFC that stands out above the rest. I don't think Seattle is quite as well-rounded as a 49ers or a Saints or maybe even a Packers. The Seattle Seahawks without Chris Carson, I think that's a massive loss. Tyler Lockett has not looked the same like he did earlier this season, and it's just too much on Russell Wilson. I don't think the Seahawks are truly built for playoff football. Maybe they can surprise a team because, like I said, they have the experience and Russell Wilson is a magician, but I just don't see them going very far in this year's playoffs. The Buffalo Bills at number 7. Wow, the Bills are ahead of the Seahawks, they're ahead of the Texans, they're ahead of the Vikings. I wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago, but even in a loss, I was impressed with the Buffalo Bills to go into New England and to push the Patriots. Even though they were completely outplayed in that game for the most part, Josh Allen made a few really nice throws, their offense made a few really nice plays to keep them in that game. So Buffalo, even we've seen that was the worst performance their defense had all year. They only allowed 24 points, right? And maybe even a worse performance, the Philadelphia Eagles, that was an absolute outlier. So the Bills defense, it's still a top 3 unit in the league. I think because of that and because of the way that McDermott schemes, especially if he's playing one of these teams twice, let's say Baltimore, for example, it's going to be even better for him to be able to go up against a Lamar Jackson for the second time to give them a chance to win. Where they really impressed me was on the offensive side of the ball in their ability to get big plays, because that's been something that's missing from Buffalo the entire season. If they're able to do that in the playoffs and get some cheap touchdowns and cheap big plays, then the Buffalo Bills can shock and beat anybody in the AFC playoffs because their defense gives them an opportunity and because Josh Allen is one of the best athletes at the quarterback position and Sean McDermott's a great coach. But I don't think that they can do that on a consistent basis. I don't think they are dynamic enough on offense to do that. And specifically on the road, having to do that is very difficult. So I think the Bills right now are the 4th best team in the AFC. And that's a lot better than a lot of Bills fans expected going in the season. So I think you'll take it. At number 6, I have the Green Bay Packers. Packers impressed me a ton on Monday Night Football. Now, I don't know if it's that they're just really, really good versus their division or if they're actually turning the corner defensively. But Aaron Jones on offense, Devontae Adams on offense, and Aaron Rodgers on offense, that is going to be able to score you around 20 points a game. And Green Bay, they just chipped away. They played mistake-free football for the most part in that game. Rodgers threw a bad interception, but to me, the Packers are a team that I think are turning the corner a little bit defensively. If they can get a performance like they did on Monday night versus the Vikings, then they can go the distance in the NFC. I'm not sure they can do that, though. Something I am really rising on is the fact that they could get a bye, and not only a bye, but also potentially even home field. So they're at least going to have home field for one game, maybe even 2 games in the NFC playoffs. That would be massive for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. As we know, they're a lot better when they are at Lambeau Field, right? So if Green Bay, and forcing teams to come on the road like a San Francisco or like a New Orleans Saints to go into Green Bay, that would make all the odds shift in the NFC and the power of the NFC really shift. I'm still skeptical about their run defense. I'm still skeptical a little bit that they're only really good versus their division, but I do like what I saw versus the Vikings. So at number 6, I have the Green Bay Packers. At number 5, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers have not been this low in quite a while, but the 49ers, I'm just a little bit concerned about their play of their defense, and more specifically, I am concerned about their injuries. It's never good to be injured in the playoffs. Now, I do still think when they are fully healthy, they are the most talented team in the NFC. And I would probably still pick them to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC if I knew they were 100% healthy. But because they're lacking those injuries, I've seen teams before that maybe were really good early in the year. They had a long win streak. That win streak really wore on them. They start to get banged up. They lose a lot of important players. And then they just don't look like the same team. And they're never able to fully grasp it back because they're constantly putting new players in the lineup. The chemistry isn't the same. And it just kind of isn't the same, period. So for me, I like what I've seen from Jimmy G. I love George Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders. That's a great 1-2 in the passing game. Their running game is pretty consistent, and Kyle Shanahan can scheme versus any defensive coach. But on the defensive side of the ball, they were dominant early in the season. They are not the same anymore because the pass rush isn't the same. So I think I need to see the 49ers have a big win here versus Seattle for me to confidently say they can go to the Super Bowl. I definitely still think they can, but I wouldn't probably be picking them at this moment in time. At number 4, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are just looking like a complete football team in the NFC, the most complete team in the NFC at this moment in time. And yes, the 49ers did defeat them, but the Saints have turned around and had some really impressive victories, like going into Tennessee and laying it on the Titans. Now, the Titans didn't really need to win that game, so it's interesting. You could debate that wasn't a super impressive win, especially without Derrick Henry for Tennessee. But going on the road, and one of my questions was, can the Saints win on the road? Can they win outside? Now, Tennessee is not cold, Tennessee is not rainy, Tennessee is not snowy, so that's a different environment if they're having to go to, let's say, Green Bay, which might actually happen now that Green Bay has defeated the Vikings. The Saints, I think, are very solid all around, but I don't see them as a truly dynamic team. I think they would need a lot of breaks to win the Super Bowl. I think they're a team that can get to the Super Bowl, but I don't know if they can beat a juggernaut in the AFC, because I think the AFC teams are a little bit more elite in certain areas that I think I would give them the advantage in certain areas. I also believe that the AFC teams match up very well with the Saints, but I do believe the Saints match up well with basically every team in the NFC, which is the reason why I have them at number 4. Now, at number 3, I have the Patriots. Rising back into the top 3 is New England with a huge impressive victory over Buffalo. And the impressive part of their victory was this could have and probably should have been a blowout, but the Patriots didn't make it a blowout, right? The Bills score at halftime with basically 30 seconds left on a play you never see versus New England's defense. And that's all thanks to an incredible arm of Josh Allen sitting in the pocket and getting destroyed and throwing a dime on a mistake, a rare mistake by Devin McCourty and Stephon Gilmore, I will add. Then you have the fumble on the first drive of the game where they could have potentially went down there and at least a field goal, if not a touchdown on that drive. as good as the Patriots played in that game, specifically offensively, there was still a lot of things that could have been better. That's the incredibly promising part about the performance on Saturday night versus the Bills. They could have converted 4th and 1 with N'Keal Harry, but they didn't. They could have went down and a rare fumble from Rex Burkhead. They could have scored there, right? Defensively, they let up rare big plays that often don't happen versus their defense. And they still dominated the game, and they still won the game, and they still came from behind and won the game. And they probably should have won the game something like 30-10 instead of 24-17. But nonetheless, the Patriots look impressive on offense in that game versus one of the top 3 defenses in football, and that's what we've all been looking for. What is their identity offensively? We know the defense can get it done. We know it's an elite unit, and that's why I put them in the top 3, because the defense is going to be elite, specifically at home. But the offense, can it get it going? I think it has found its identity, and that is scary for the rest of the NFL playoffs. At number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs look like a really good team right now. Of course, we know how dynamic they are on offense with Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Hardman, Sammy Watkins. I mean, they have a ton of targets, a ton of speed, and a baller at quarterback. Defensively, Chris Jones is a game wrecker. Tyrann Mathieu is an MVP in the secondary. Kansas City's defense has gone on a 5-game run. I've heard that they've been, kind of compared to the 2006 Colts, and I kind of get that a little bit. That defense that started off very poorly, then had a historic run in the playoffs that lifted a great quarterback to a championship. I can see that a little bit, but the Chiefs, I think they are number 2 because I think if they get to the Super Bowl, they're going to win the Super Bowl. I feel like if the Chiefs find a way to beat New England, they find a way to beat Baltimore, they're going to win. I have no doubt about it because all that momentum, just being able to beat those teams both on the road potentially, that would be a super impressive run in the AFC. And I think they would be able to ride it out in the Super Bowl and get the win. They're super dynamic on offense. Their defense is getting better and better with each week. And I think the coaching is really promising as well. I don't see many holes on this team. And my only concern is can they beat New England again? Can they beat Baltimore again, specifically on the road? That's really the only thing I have to say about the Chiefs. Or else I'd maybe put them at number 1. I mean, they're playing that well right now. So the Chiefs are at number 2. At number 1, Baltimore. Baltimore is the reason they're not at number 1, Kansas City, because Baltimore just continues to win. They continue to dominate. And there's nothing that needs to be added here. But I think they are the favorite going into the playoffs, and that's because they have the MVP, Lamar Jackson. Again, the only thing I can say is, can they beat the teams twice? Can they beat these teams twice when everyone's seen Lamar Jackson for the first time? Because part of the scheme and part of the reason they're so great is because people don't know how to stop it because they've never faced it before. So that's the only question. Other than that, Lamar has really been impressive throwing the ball down the field, which is huge in the playoffs. They're running the ball better than anybody else in the last decade. Their defense in their secondary is very, very good. And I think that gives them an advantage versus a Kansas City or a New England. And then the other flaw I would say is stopping the run. But I do feel like you can get away with a bad run D if your offense is super dynamic and you're playing at home and you're forcing teams to pass. So at number 1, I have the Baltimore Ravens, the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. Still not sure I'm going to pick them to win the Super Bowl, but they are number 1 on my top 10. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe to The Bottom Line View, Gronk spike the like button, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.